Hello, hello, hello. Um, so I guess a struggle that I have is there's all of this hype and excitement and energy around agents, but so many of them don't work. And so Div came to me talking to me about this agents hackathon. I'm like, come on, Div, like another agents hackathon. Like, how are we going to make agents that actually do anything? We all know that plugins failed. We all know that it's really hard to build these things. Like, show me anyone making any money, please. Let's do something that differentiates the agents that are functional from the agents that aren't. So obviously, OpenAI tried really hard to make plugins work. It wasn't reliable. There wasn't enough of an interface between, different plugins. It was sort of hard to get it to you what you wanted. And so I certainly have a lot of hackathon ideas, but I thought I'd take advantage of the stage to run a little experiment with you all in collective creation of high quality content. So I run a company called Omniscience. We do book generation. Just super quickly, basically, we have writing agents that are creating research papers that are being responded to in public, and have generated bestsellers, and we generated libraries, and all of academic research will eventually be generative. But in creating this, I learned a bunch of lessons. So actually, I was interested in 99% per step reliability. And so we parse our prompt outputs to guarantee that reliability. This isn't an obvious technique. When you have a prompt output, you can structure it, and then you can parse it, and then you can have a test that makes sure that the parsed prompt works, and that gets you reliability. You can build up content in parts and aggregate it using lists and other codes. You can use chains instead of open-ended agents. So, AutoGPT comes out, everyone says, oh, like this plaza will be able to do anything or everything, and in practice it can't do anything. But if you output the chain, maybe you'd have a chance if you updated things. So anyway, I learned all these lessons. I've been iterating on specific prompts, noticing all of the ways in which they fail, updating for the failure, seeing the new failures, updating for those failures, and continuing. But a lot of these lessons are kind of hidden lessons. And all of you are about to be creating agents and have experience creating agents. So let's do something together. Let's create a little playbook. So this is a link to a spreadsheet. Basically, this spreadsheet is called the Agent Builders Playbook. And it will basically be a place that all of you can, in real time right now, contribute to basically a collective knowledge base. So I'm curious to see what people add. Basically, it's super simply structured. Write your name and then add a technique. So I've added all the techniques that I learned from building Omniscience. But basically, as you guys open this, you'll be able to see everything that was created. So let me make sure that everyone can scan in. I'd like to do a side by side, I guess. Cool. Great. So Jay's already contributed. Use a directed acyclic graph rather than an open-ended loop. Super creative, super interesting. I would love to know. So actually, if you can include an example of where it worked, that's also awesome. But as people come in with new ideas, I'll let them know. Jose, check with real life people. Cute. Very helpful generalist advice for sure. But to be clear, the intent here is to collectively build a technique playbook that we can implement at the hackathon. So do try to keep your ideas to technical techniques that that people can implement today. Sacco, using mixtures of agents and prompt optimizers. Very creative. A part of me is skeptical. Agents themselves, hard enough. Maybe mixing them together is even more challenging. But if you have a reliability heuristic, or you know which one will work in which context, that's great. Use a prompt optimizer. Sacco, if you want to link a prompt optimizer, that seems awesome. Anthropic has a phenomenal prompt generator. I don't know if you've ever used this sort of structured prompt generation process. But Sacco, if you have a different prompt optimizer in mind, do let us know. Use wordware. Amazing. Yeah. So, I saw an AutoGen presentation at the Arise conference last week. And the amazing thing about AutoGen is it's an agent framework which is open source. So you can pull all of the prompts that it generates internally and then use those prompts in a sequence and optimize them for reliability. And so I think there's a clear path from open source browser agents to functional specific browser chains that execute on important browser tasks. Very cool. So I'll send this out over the over the event so that people can continue to add to it. But I intend to publish something akin to, the hacker's guide to creating high quality agents. So do please contribute, and actually, if you leave your info, I'll make sure to give that proper attribution. To finish things off, though, I do have disappointments, lessons, etc. So plugins was this terrible failure. Plugins could have been a library, which was the most valuable software library in history, which allowed you to take arbitrary real-world actions from Python code, because all of these companies published backends that you could interact with. So you could have a Python library that lets you order something on Kayak, or that lets you interact with Wolfram Alpha. This didn't happen, and if someone made it, that would be truly phenomenal. Code Interpreter, Julius, and Anthropic, super successful, because they went for basically super limited agents that are in the loop of their environment. So in general, I think it's an incredible heuristic. In my mind, the future of agents, and if you guys can train it today, that'd be fantastic, are things like Orca Math, which put math generation in the loop of a model being trained. And so it's a research direction that I think is really phenomenal. And we've seen crazy results, 2xing on important benchmarks. So if you can train a model today, that would be amazing, or even set up training. And generally speaking, there's an intent to have an agency paradigm shift that hasn't quite happened yet, but is on the way. So if you haven't read React, it's a great intro to planning and acting. Tool use in part has fallen by the wayside as a concept, but is certainly still incredibly important and relevant. Self-correction and automated evaluation and self-awareness is phenomenal and still, in my mind, under-theorized and underdone. Obviously, Code Interpreter is very much about code-based self-correction, but how do you do that in other domains? It's a big question. In general, I think chaining is totally underrated. So optimize every single prompt in a chain that is reliable, and you can accomplish incredible prompt to product